Hello, everyone. Today, special guest Freya. How's it going today?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah. How are you doing?
Amazing. I mean, we had a chat, and it's been like an hour. We were us just chatting. I think that was cool. That's what a lot of people don't know about this podcast. Like, there's a lot of chatting behind the scenes, and I use it
You
just
missed
to.
everything.
You
That
missed
was super
everything.
interesting.
Yeah,
It was so
basically.
cool, but we didn't record, unfortunately. Yeah.
All right, so let's start by introduction. Like, you obviously built tools that you know helped a lot of game developers and shader editors and stuff like that. But guess the question is, what brought you into this whole journey?
Oh God, where do I start? What part of it? Like game development or tool development?
Let's see. So you're a game developer, tool creator, educator, speaker.
Hmm.
You try to make math, feel magical, and do you demystify math and all of that. So what like if we say the child Freya, like what brought her into like the whole journey? Take us through it.
Um, well, I guess it would start with just playing video games, which I guess is the start for most game developers. Um, you play a bunch of video games as a kid and you're inspired by it, or at least I was. I thought it was super fascinating and fun, and it was such a central part of my life. It gave me so much joy and curiosity in art, I suppose. And so video games was kind of my gateway into like appreciating all the stuff that we create as humans,
Mm-hmm.
because I was never like into movies or TV series or anything like that. And so that kind of became my creative outlet and the stuff that I liked watching and doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when you're a kid, you don't really know what is even possible to do as a job. And so it was kind of like when I discovered that, like, oh, video games are like actually made by people. They don't just like grow on trees in nature, right? And so then I was like, oh shit, that seems kind of cool. I
Mm-hmm.
kind of want to look into that because whenever I played a game, one of the things I used to do pretty much anytime I got any game was to look for a level editor because I
Okay.
loved making levels for games. And so that was kind of like it started out as just doing hobby level editing and modding of games. I played a lot of Trackmania,
Mm-hmm.
like the first Trackmania original, and then Trackmania Sunrise and all the sequels and expansions, and then I got into the Source engine. So
Ah.
that was mostly with I did play Half-Life 2, but I think it was the release of the Orange Box when I got into doing mapping in the Source engine.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to do mapping for Team Fortress 2, a little bit for Portal. I did some like Half-Life 2 mods. And yeah, so I spent a lot of time doing mapping. And obviously, like, the kind of mapping you do in the Source engine is a lot more advanced than the kind of mapping you would do for like a puzzle game with a level
Mm.
editor is usually like tile based and you kind of like place tiles to create a puzzle, right? So for most of my like up to the age of, I don't know, like 10, like I did most of those like simple types of level editor stuff.
Mm.
But then once I got into the Source engine, then I'm using the professional tools that people at Valve used when making, Team Fortress 2, Portal, Half-Life 2, and so forth.
Wow.
And so that kind of made me realize that, like, okay, if I can do this, if this is something that I can become pretty good at,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe I can do this as a job in the future. Because I mean, obviously I did have a knack for it. And I enjoy doing it. And so if I can, if my job can become something that I enjoy doing, that's like that's a dream scenario, right? And
So
and
like,
to some extent my dad was like an inspiration for me
yeah.
in a very backwards way,
Yeah.
because my dad hated his job. Like,
Oh.
whenever he came home, he was like exhausted,
Mm.
tired, and he was like complaining about it every time. And seeing that
Mm.
day in and day out made me realize that, like, okay, your job is like 8 hours of your day, plus public transport or whatever, right? And so I felt like I better make my job something that I enjoy. I need to do whatever I can to make sure that that happens, because otherwise I would suffer 8 hours a day. And so it just became like a very important thing to me pretty early on in life.
Wow.
And so then I've always like worked towards that goal. Um, but but yeah, that's kind of how it started, I suppose.
So what? So back in the day when you were a hobbyist, right? And you were doing not a hobbyist, a hobbyist. How to say that? A
Hobbyist, yeah,
hobbyist,
yeah.
yeah. What were your references for what was considered good in like mapping? And by the way, can we explain mapping for like listeners who have no idea what mapping is?
Oh, mapping is generally a term used for people who make levels for games. Usually, mapping means that you do both the design and the art for the game. So you will not just do like blockouts or layouts of levels, but you will also do the lighting, placing the props, and in the case of the source engine, you would also do like basic kind of modeling with CSG primitives, which is kind of like you're combining blocks together in order to make shapes. So you would, in editor, you might create a set of stairs and you would create walls and you would create all of that in editor in a way that you don't really do in Unity, for example, because Unity doesn't really have a built-in geometry editor unless you count ProBuilder, but nobody likes ProBuilder.
No
And
one
so,
likes
yeah, I don't know.
ProBuilder. Let's just make an
Um,
announcement. No one likes ProBuilder in
yeah.
Unity.
And so mapping is usually kind of used for people who do like both the layout and the art side of levels for games. And quite often they're like third-party levels for games. Like usually you wouldn't really say that you're a mapper if you're at a game studio making levels for the game, but maybe some would. But usually mappers are kind of hobbyist people who make levels. Yeah.
So what was reference to what a good mapper was? Like where did you get that reference? Did you just kept doing what you were doing, or were you using other artists' work, other mappers' work, and referencing to like how you can get to there, maybe?
Oh, the way that I would gauge that was purely from the way other people responded to it. Like,
Oh.
because obviously I didn't really know at the time, like I didn't really know what would make a good level or like what makes what's good lighting, and all of that stuff was something I was learning throughout that period and spending, I don't even know how long the period was, but it was probably like 5 years or something.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, 4 years. Oh god, time works so differently when you're younger.
Yes.
But yeah, it's like so I spent a bunch of years during when I was at school. So I was in high school when I was doing my Team Fortress 2 mapping. And that was the stuff that I do. Like as soon as I came home,
You
that's
did
what I
that.
was doing. And during the weekend, that's what I would be doing. Like I would just spend so much time on this because it was just so much more fun than whatever I had to do at school. And so the that I mean, obviously, I would compare my levels. I would, of course, compare them to the way that the official levels would look in Team Fortress 2.
Yeah.
I would compare them to other people's levels in the community, and because I was part of the there's a TF2 Maps
Yeah.
.com, I think. I haven't been there for a long time now, but that was a forum, which
Cool.
the way people communicated before social media on the internet. And so there was like a Team Fortress 2 mapping community online. And so I was part of that. And then I was also part of a very big Team Fortress 2 server that was called 242 Furious, I think.
That's cool.
2F2F. So that was like a popular server. And
Yeah.
on that server, you could I was in touch with the owner of that server, and so we would run custom maps every now and then. And sometimes the owner would also give feedback for how we could maybe improve the map or whatever. And so there was a lot of us on that server who not just played the game because we enjoyed playing the game, but also because we did want to play test levels that were in production and alpha testing a bunch of maps. And so that was kind of my first actual real iteration process of working on something that I wanted to be a professional grade level for a video game, which eventually just became a huge passion. And that was kind of my one of my Team Fortress 2 levels was my application to start at Future Games after high school. So Future Games was the game development school here in Stockholm.
Yeah.
And so at the time I was super into mapping and level design. My goal in life was that I wanted to be a level designer at Valve. That was
Yeah.
I had that in my head for so many years.
Do you see that happening soon?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
But
Valve, if you're watching this.
Well, so the thing is, okay, skipping ahead a lot. Um, so I started a company a while back called Neat Corp, and we did VR games. And so we actually collaborated with Valve during the early days of the HTC Vive.
Oh, cool.
And so we had like a really early dev kit of the Vive. And
Yeah.
so when we were working on Budget Cuts, the game, that like the demo of Budget Cuts got a huge amount of positive reception within
Cool.
the VR community. And so then we got like a really close relationship with Valve. And I ended up like, I was working on Budget Cuts at Valve's office for like a month, and then another like week at a different point in time. And so like I did eventually reach the point where I was at Valve's office doing work
Wow.
there, not for Valve, but like working on my own project at Valve.
Hell yeah.
And so we had like a bit of a collaboration on certain parts of Budget Cuts, which was super cool to like actually be part of that, to get to have that experience, right?
Yeah.
But the thing that kind of threw me off and made me feel really weird about it was that once I was at that point of like, shit, I'm like super close to Valve, we're having this like really nice collaboration. I did go for lunch with a few people, and one of them kind of threw it out there. He was like, "Hey, I mean, if you would want to work at Valve, just let me know, and I'll see if I can I can do something and whatnot."
Wow.
And he was like, "I'd love to have you here," and so that made me so confused because my intuition was that I didn't really want to work there anymore, but I'd had this dream my whole life,
Yeah.
and I'd never really questioned it until that point. And so it kind of became this like existential crisis of like, yeah, I don't know if I would actually want to be working at Valve anymore, but that's been my like I don't know, the guiding light for so much of my life. So that was like a really weird moment of, I don't know, like having my dream job in front of me and then realizing that I kind of want to work on my own projects. I kind of want to do my own like indie stuff.
But that's like skipping
so,
ahead
yeah.
way too much, right? Like, when was that? Around 5 years ago, 4 years ago?
It must have been around 2018,
All right.
2019-ish,
Okay.
I think.
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
we were still at high school, but it's cool to make that jump. Now we have like a roadmap, so that's cool. And I wanted to ask, like, here's the thing: you're you're a YouTuber. I think I could say that you're a streamer, Twitch. So obviously you like to show your work, right? In a way, you like to present your knowledge, you like to present your learning or whatever. So I wanted to ask, like, was that aspect there since you were mapping, like the Team Fortress forum? Was that an aspect that you were excited to show? Like when you were at high school, you were working on a map and then you were releasing that map. Was that like a huge factor that kept you going?
I'm not sure if I would say that it was a huge factor, but it was definitely a factor. Like I liked showing off my work, and if it was good, I was proud of it. And if people liked it, that means that I'm good if my work is good. Like that was the association I had in my head, which can be harmful and still is harmful to some extent, of like associating your own self-worth with the work that you do.
Yes,
is a bad route to go down, but I did it a lot.
External validation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I would say that I was still like, I mean, I was largely like internally motivated by it, but I still liked the external like validation from showing my stuff.
Yeah. So what I was leading on is basically, was that, like, if we say that this motivated you, was that a factor to why you started making content?
Why I started making like YouTube stuff or
YouTube, Twitch.
I think it was probably part of it. Yeah. I mean, I think I sort of started doing a lot of animation work on Twitter, and that kind of gained a lot of traction whenever I would do something that was like educational and math related. So I did a lot of math animations on Twitter, and then I was like, okay, well, I want to make something bigger. And so I did that on YouTube with a video I made about Bezier curves. And that was And that was kind of sparked by, I don't know if you know Grant Sanderson,
No.
3 Blue 1 Brown on YouTube.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so 3 Blue 1 Brown is like one of the biggest math YouTubers. And so he ran it was kind of like a competition where he was putting out there that people could, make your own math explainers. And then we're going to have like a voting thing to see like if there's winners or whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so he kind of had this initiative called the Summer of Math Exposition. So I wanted to join that initiative because that seemed like a fun like competition to do. And also, like, because I've done so many like math animations on Twitter, I was like, well, I can probably make like a video out of that because that's just like more animations, right? And so I made this video about Bezier curves. And so that was kind of something that, and like if it's a competition, obviously to some extent this was not really about showing off, more so that I wanted to prove myself that I could do it, which is annoying that is a big motivating factor for me because like, I don't know, this is weird because like if I'm making an animated math video and my primary motivator is that I want to show the world that I can do it, then once I've done it, like once, then I don't really need to show people that I can do it anymore because I've already shown it. And so then I become more motivated to do something else that I haven't shown people that I'm capable of doing because that's more interesting to me and that's more of a challenge. And when it becomes less of a challenge, I'm less interested in it. And so I've had this like paradoxical like relationship with my like math explainer stuff where like now I'm kind of bored of doing that too much because like I already know that I can do it. Like I don't know, it's just like rote now, right? And so I don't know. I have a weird relationship with that. But we'll see where it goes from here.
I mean, that's why the podcast is called The Generalist. So we're just never satisfied with the skill that we learned. We always jump
unfortunately,
to the next thing that we want to learn. And external validation, I feel, can be a trap. I'm talking about this because I have the same thing, right? I will not learn anything unless I can show it. I don't know why. It is what it is. I will embrace it. So that's why I started streaming. That's why I started making, podcasts or whatever. I also believe in sharing. Like, there's something that I despise almost about someone who learns something and just keep it for themselves for whatever sake. Either
I do that a lot.
You do that a lot?
I have a lot of that, yeah. A lot of
You can't say that with your great videos so far. Like, you were sharing your knowledge too, right?
Oh yeah, but like the videos that I have shared is like, I don't know, what could it be? Maybe like 20% of all the videos that I've been working on. so like there's a bunch of videos I've started working on. I've had like done a huge amount of research. I wrote like a bunch of scripts and I started making footage. But then I was like, I'm feeling kind of done. Like I got my like curiosity got satisfied and I learned something and I feel like I grew from this experience. And then it feels like the next step of like finishing the thing of going from 20% to a 100% finished video is less interesting to me because I want to move on to the next interesting thing. So I do definitely have a lot of internal motivation when it comes to stuff like this.
That's cool.
Where, like, for example, I've had a blog post about Lerp smoothing. I don't know if you're familiar with Lerp smoothing.
No, but you can explain.
Okay, so there's this trick that you can use in programming and like gameplay programming or animation, where if you want to make something move smoothly towards some other point, you can use something called Lerp smoothing, where basically every frame you run a piece of code where you lerp from the current position to a target position. And you say it's basically like every frame you move some percentage of the way to the target, which over time has this kind of interesting motion where it's kind of like an ease out function because it's fast in the beginning and then it slows down as it approaches the point. Because 10% along the way is going to be shorter and shorter the closer you are. And so it has this really nice like exponential fall off. And it's also dynamic. So if you have something follow something else, if you move that target, it's going to like follow after it, right? In a very smooth manner. And so that is kind of a hack that is also broken. Like doing it that way is incorrect if you have a variable frame rate, which most games do let you have different frame rates, right? And so that sent me on like a whole year-long journey into looking into, like very deeply looking into why it's wrong, how to fix it, and how the math in how to fix it works. Because stuff like I'd never really looked into differential equations, for example. But if I wanted to learn why it doesn't work and how to fix it, learning differential equations and then also explaining differential equations is a part of that process, right? And so I started writing a huge interactive blog post about Lerp smoothing.
Wow.
Writing my own like blog platform and all the backend stuff, and like learning TypeScript, setting up all the interactivity, and then I started doing all of that, and then I wanted to do a talk about Lerp smoothing. And so then I retrofitted my blog post into a slideshow system so that I can do slides using my website or like my web code, right? And so then I did a talk about Lerp smoothing at a conference called Guadalindi. And then, when I came home, I was like, okay, I need to finish the blog post. But it was like, I'm kind of like 80% done. Or no, that not even that. I'm like 95% done with this huge blog post.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I feel kind of done. Like I don't like I should just release this blog post. I should just like do the last like 5%, or even maybe just ignore the last 5% or just release it anyway.
Yeah.
But if it's not perfect and if I'm not motivated to work on it anymore, I'm like, whatever, right? But and so then like I'm sitting here with like a huge piece of quote unquote content or a blog post, an interactive blog post. Yeah. And I'm just not releasing it because it's not perfect. And because I'm not as motivated to work on it anymore. And so to me, I think a lot of this comes from, I don't know if it's some kind of insecurity that like, if I release something that's not perfect, that's going to reflect badly on me. And so I'd rather not release it at all than to release something that has flaws.
But isn't
like
it,
it's sort of that way?
Isn't it mathematical in a way? Like if the calculation is not done yet, then it's not done yet. Like it's not an answer. Like if a machine.
Oh, I mean, the answer is there. That was there a long time ago. But like this has nothing to do with.
No.
Like,
I'm saying like the answer of the blog post being finished. That's a 0-1 value, right? Like either it is finished or it is not finished. And as long as it's not finished, maybe in your head it's not finished, right? Even if it's 95% finished. And like a person like me might look at it and be like, this is amazing. This is beyond 150% finished, right? But for your eyes, it's like 95% finished. And so for you, maybe mathematically, you're like, this is not done yet. And it's stressing me to make it done. But although if you just pressed on publish, it probably can, help everybody. Because even if it's not complete yet, you will have 2 or 3 people telling you, by the way, by line whatever 335, this thing I would do. Like this is what science is about, right? You make pages, then you have your peers reviewing the pages, and then they criticize your page. Otherwise, it doesn't get accepted, and so on and so on. And that is like what I meant with like holding knowledge. When people hold knowledge. Like if you think about it, language, culture, cooking, cars, computers will mean nothing if tomorrow just one newborn is left and everybody's dead. It will mean nothing. Like, can you imagine? Like all the knowledge is gone and they will know nothing and they will have to create everything from the start. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me.
Right. Yeah. I think to me, it's like, I think doing the talk about it sort of got me that aspect of it right there, right? Yeah. Like I did a talk, it's recorded, it's on YouTube, and people can access it, so the information is out there. You don't technically need a blog post anymore.
Yeah.
Although there are some things in the blog post that I didn't include in the talk, but not that much. But then I get stuck on like dumb things of like, so for example, at the end of this blog post, I have a bunch of like performance measurements for different ways you can do the correct Lerp smoothing.
Wow.
But one of the tricky things with performance is that it's really hard to measure on like modern computers because it's often not really representative of your real world use cases because you know computers are complicated, and if I measure the performance of a single function, it's really hard to do that right, especially in languages like JavaScript, because JavaScript is a mess, and the way that it optimizes stuff is also a mess because a lot of these things are like JITted in real time. So like if you want to performance test a function, then the way it's going to perform depends on how many times you've already called it. It depends on how many times your browser expects you to call it. And it also depends on which browser you're using, because all of these browsers have different engines. Well, actually, most browsers are Chromium, and then there's also Firefox. But still, so like all of these things matter and affect the results to the point where it's really hard to know. Even if I measured a bunch of different ways of doing something in JavaScript, I'm still not 100% sure if it's useful information because it might behave entirely differently if you use it in a different context, right? And so this is one of those things where I'm like, okay, I have this potentially not very useful data. And I feel like I should rerun the measurements because I forgot to include a specific function or whatever. And so it's kind of imperfect and it's not really useful, but I feel like it's kind of interesting. And so like go back and forth on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm also like, oh yeah, but like I should have something in this blog post that kind of incentivizes people to go to my Patreon because I'm really bad at plugging my Patreon. So I need to do it somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, maybe I can write like a secondary blog post that's only accessible to Patreon supporters about one of the things I mentioned in the Lerp smoothing blog posts, which is kind of a tangent, but it's still related to it. And so then I kind of like started working on that second blog post, and then I'm here where I haven't released any of them because I'm like, well, I should have the Patreon thing in there. But if I don't have the extra article with the Patreon like exclusive access, then I will be missing out on whoever might have supported me there. And then I'm like, oh, that's not good. I should leave the option open because what if I want to do it at some point? And like I overthink these things so much. But it is exactly like you say, like as you know, as a creator, whenever you create a piece of art, like you are hyper aware of all of its flaws and everything that's not good about it and the things that are missing, and you're seeing how tiny it is compared to your grand plan or vision, right? But it's kind of like that one meme where like, you know, you imagine that there's this big, beautiful cake that someone made, and then you come in there with your shitty little cake that doesn't look even close to as good enough. But most people are always just like, oh shit, another cake. Hell yeah. I'm going to eat this cake. This is awesome. Hell yeah. Got good snacks, right? Like most people don't care about those tiny quality things that
they don't
I
see
obsess
it,
over.
honestly. Like when you spend like now 5 minutes talking about like the specifics of where you see the code of that one page or like with the things that you didn't include. I'm thinking about how I would approach it. Like if I saw the page, I'd be like, hell yeah, another cake, like you said. And I think me and you, like, I learn a lot from people like you, that the perfectionism, the overthinking. I learned, like, especially in this period right now with like me coming back to streaming and things like that. I'm learning so much about quality. I'm learning so much about like putting a little more effort because I am the total opposite. Like I do not care about overthinking. The moment I start overthinking, I'm opening my task manager and ending the task immediately. That's how my brain functions. I'm like, I don't want to overthink anything. It could be a juice. It could be bubble tea I want to order, right? I don't care. The moment the overthinking.exe starts going, I shut it down immediately. I'm like, nope, I'm going to take this and I'm going to try it. Even if it sucks, it's cool. Whatever.
Oh, damn. I'm really bad at doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. That's really difficult.
So like if I
have to go out of my way to try to force myself to do stuff like that.
Yeah. Nah, I understand. And like, I feel like we can learn from each other, right? So the way I'm going about my code is like, I look at people like you with like high standards of quality and I'm like, damn it, I need to learn from that. But I also feel like there's something about letting go a little bit because art is a lot of this. Like to reach quality, you need quantity. There's no doubt about that, right? The problem I think in your case
you need a quantity of experience at the very least. Like you
Yes.
have to fail before you can succeed. But
Yes. But you
once
don't
you're
have
at
to
a
show
point where
your
you've
failure.
created something successful,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now I know how to do the thing, so now I don't have to fail anymore. Now my expectations are super high. And so that's why
I get it.
I now I'm at a point where I have to be perfectionist,
So
or have to be, in my mind.
I guess in one point, like I am because like the same period where you were interested in mapping in your life, right? I had the same period, but with manga coloring, like an obsession with manga coloring. I started when I was 14. Also a hobbyist, right, in the community. And like every chapter of Naruto, Fairy Tail, whatever it is, I was coloring all of it. Like it was like a competition to me, and I could not put that stuff out there. And I come from an artistic background, so I don't come from mathematical background like you do maybe with code and stuff like. But like I come from this like
Ish. I don't even. It's
okay.
hard to tell.
We
Yeah.
could talk about that. So yeah, I could not. I had so many colorings that I just did not put out there because I was so afraid that they will start seeing that one and thinking, okay, everything I've done is just cheating or whatever, right? Because I felt like it didn't stand to the same standard. But now in this period of my life, I'm like in like effort mode, and I'm like, I'm just gonna share all my failures, and so it becomes nothing. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And the problem about me being a perfectionist in that way, that I stopped even working. I didn't want to even draw anymore. I didn't want to even learn anything anymore, anything related, because I was like, what's the purpose? I will fail. But once I normalized the failure and made it a positive with my streams, like the Let's Learn streams, I was like, I'm just going to fail over and over again. And I took that external validation to my advantage, basically. I feel like that fixed it for me. I just was okay with failing.
Right. Yeah, sense. I think like all of that stuff I'm fully aware of logically. Like I know that it's stupid for me to like be completely stuck, not releasing anything, and just like hoarding it and being like nervous that people are going to think that I'm slightly worse than I could have been. Like it's a very narrow way of thinking about it, because like we both know most people are just going to appreciate whatever it is you put out if you have people who do appreciate your stuff, right? And like so like even though I know all of that logically, I don't feel it emotionally. Like emotionally I'm not there. Emotionally, anytime I release something, I'm like hyper aware and super vigilant about that one thing that I didn't do. And anytime someone comments on that thing, it hurts. Like it's like, fuck, I should have spent that extra time like doing the thing. I should have done it. I should have just waited another month to release this because I should have fixed that thing, or I should have done more research on that. Like it hits me immediately. And then that makes my perfectionism worse. So that I hate that. It's so annoying. And it's kind of like, and I don't mind criticism. Like criticism from like people online, which obviously you will get when you do anything online. And I don't mind criticism from people who are more knowledgeable than me in general, and they're like adding some extra context or something that I might have made a mistake on. Yeah, something that I couldn't have predicted. That's really, really nice. I love that kind of feedback. I also love the kind of feedback of people who are just stupid and angry and want to leave a stupid, angry comment. That's fun. That's entertaining to me. Like, oh, this is just a stupid person who's just being really mean for no reason. It's just fun. But the comments that hurt the most are the ones that point out things that I already knew that I wanted to fix, but I didn't fix.
Yeah.
That's poison to my perfectionism. That just makes it even worse. It just, I hate it. I hate it. And so like, I think part of the solution is just to not read the comments.
Oh, really? But like, do you reply to them?
Not of late, no. Well, I do. I skim the comments like the first week or so that I've released any kind of video, because I want to get a vibe of like, what is the general consensus? And usually it's positive. And so like, I don't know. And also YouTube comments have gotten better to some extent. Like they're less aggressive for the past year or two or something. It was worse before then.
Yeah, there's a lot of controlling on that end, but not enough in my opinion. One thing about negativity is like it's like an ink in a water glass, so positivity becomes the norm, so it doesn't get appreciated. It's like a thankless job, like a plumber, for example, right?
Yeah.
We don't think about how cool the plumbing is. It could be the most optimized plumbing ever, right? If you don't see it, as long as it works, cool. So when something breaks, we get like super angry at a plumber, not at a plumber, but like we get super angry about like the job that was done or whatever it is. Like IT is like that too. If everything runs smoothly, everybody is normal. They're not happy, they're not angry. When it breaks, they're angry, right? I think with comments like that, what I do is I just like it helps me. I'm not sure if it's gonna help you, but like it helps me to just tell them I know, and I left it like this.
Yeah. So I think I started doing that.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
No worries.
I started doing that. Oh, hold on. I mean, that's what I started doing. But then once my content grew to a point where I have too many comments to spend time replying to, I just can't fight it back, right?
Yeah.
So then I would start doing stuff like, okay, I'm going to make a pinned comment with some context. I'm going to add something to the description, which nobody reads. Nobody reads the pinned comment. Nobody reads the description. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter how much context you add. You will always have someone comment on that one thing that you've already had 6,000 comments on. It's like, I don't need a 6,001 first like comment on this.
Yeah,
right?
but like I guess is that on you then? Like it's not on you anymore. I guess like that's how I go.
No,
by
no,
it.
no, of course not. Okay, so like I don't even know these people. I am under no obligation to respond to any of these people. And if they're not even like looking up whether I've addressed this thing before, why should I spend time replying to them, right? Like that's the way I should be approaching it. And so that's the way I've been trying to do it. And so like not reading the comments has been helpful in that way, because then I don't need to respond to everything, right?
And if you think about it, like honestly, we're not meant to know so many people and interact with so many people.
And it's a very like asymmetrical like type of communication as well. It's very strange.
Yeah, and like with the quantity of people, our brain, I feel like it's evolved from like a village, like maximum 60 people, and the news of 60 people, and that's all what you know, and you don't need to know anything else. We cannot I don't think we can process having so many people around us, especially when it comes to news and the world and the history. Like none of us know everything, but yet we're asked, especially if we come to like a popular stage, like, okay, what is your opinion on whatever something is happening in 17,000 kilometers away from you? And like I honestly say, I don't know what I think. Like I have no idea what to think. My brain is not evolved.
Yeah, and it's also the asymmetry there, especially for stuff like YouTube or Twitch, is also like, it's strange because whoever is interacting with you, they kind of feel like they're having a one-on-one type of interaction. But if you're the streamer or the YouTuber, you do not see it that way at all. You have a 1 on 6,000. Like there are so many people, and you just can't engage with everybody on a one-to-one basis, right? And that does lead to this weird expectation gap where, you know, some people might expect you to respond because they're just one person with a simple question. It's so easy to respond to a simple question. Like, why would you not respond to this? But then once you're on the other side, you see that you have so many people that you just can't address all of them. It's impossible.
And while also
and then if you
focusing-
complain about that, you get shit on because like, oh, you're just a privileged asshole who's like sitting on your throne on Twitch or YouTube or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, well,
it's
I'm sorry.
really difficult to also focus on the stream, the content that you're trying to make, right? While communicating with like 6,000 people that are spamming the chat.
Oh yeah, and like depending on what you're doing, like most of my streams are development streams. So I do programming while I'm streaming.
Yeah.
And having to juggle like the actual programming, having the problem in your head and trying to navigate the space of solving this problem in code while also interacting with chat and then also trying to be educational. So I need to have a representation of their state of mind in my mind,
Wow.
so that I can, present something to them in a way that they would understand. And so, like, okay, if this person seems like they don't have that much experience, I need to change my language and use different terminology to make it more understandable to this person. And like, that's a whole process in and of itself as an educator. And then also I need to be aware of things like, well, I'm on camera. I can't just look however I want. I can't, like, I don't know, just pick my nose or something. Like, not that I do that, but
And-
like
yeah.
you have to be aware of so many things at once. And so
Yeah.
that is so much pressure. And yeah, it's a lot.
It's also there's this misconception is like the most easy job, the easiest job is being a streamer, right? That's what everybody kind of think. But I wanted to ask you, since it's such a high stimulant, like streaming, like you're trying to think about something, it's in my opinion, when I'm done with streaming, and I don't have 6,000 people, like it's a disclaimer out there, 30 max,
Oh,
right?
me
That would be
neither,
a good
by the way.
day.
I
That
don't
would
have
be a good
6,000 on
day.
stream.
I mean, yeah, like a real successful day, 30 people, all right? Cool, amazing. Right afterwards, I can't do anything. I can't talk to my wife. I can't eat. I can't do any. I can only look at my phone. That is it. My brain becomes like this noise. The old TVs did, right? Psh, I get fried because I was doing 5 things at the same time. It's not an easy job.
Yeah, no, it's I also, I've been trying to figure out why, but after almost every single stream that I do, I get a headache, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like I've been trying to figure it out. It's like, okay, is it like I'm not drinking enough, like water or something? Am I like sitting weird, so my like muscles are tense or something? Like I have no idea. But after every single stream, I have a headache, and I don't know what to do about that.
Wow.
And so I don't know if it's just like an overload type of thing there as well.
There's also when
yeah.
you stream, you don't feel time, right? Do you feel that too? Like time is just boom, done. 7 hours stream. Okay, cool. It felt like 2 hours.
No, I think I definitely feel
Okay.
time. It depends on what I'm doing, I think. Yeah, I don't think that's too different from the way that I feel about time generally when working. I think it's almost the opposite. I think it's easier for me to lose track of time when I'm not streaming. I think.
All right, so let's take it back to your skills. And I wanted to ask about mathematics. Like as a person who hated mathematics when I was young, especially in the age of 7 until now, how the heck, you found it pretty interesting?
Oh God, like when did this? So I did have so like in high school, I did have an interest in math, but it was kind of vague. Like I didn't have a strong interest in math. There were a few things I liked, but that was probably before high school, actually. I kind of like geometry. I think geometry was interesting to me. Anytime you did stuff with like triangles and like hexagons and like n-gons, like that kind of stuff was interesting to me. And I think it was mostly just because it was visual and it was nice because it was visual.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of like problems in physics that I also liked a little bit more because now it's like you have a geometric setup for something that adds a force to something else.
Yeah.
Like I liked that. That was nice. And so that made mathematics a lot more tangible in a way that I appreciated, because otherwise I think a lot of people's issue with math is that it feels so abstract and so pointless. Like you're not going to need trigonometry to order fries like in your life ever. And so it feels pointless. But I think what changed for me was when I got into game development, and especially after I got into programming, that's when it very much clicked for me that all of these things are incredibly useful for the stuff that I wanted to do. And so once I started jumping into all of these different mathematical concepts, I saw the usefulness of it and how much it improved the stuff that I could do. And then after a certain point, it became self-perpetuating, where it was no longer about the usefulness. It became about like the beauty of the patterns that exist in math that I really, really liked and loved to explore. Like I thought it was super fascinating. And so at this point, like it became just an interest where I don't really need a practical use case to be like, for example, like I've been doing research on quaternionic splines. which is splines in quaternion space. I don't really have a strong use case for that. I was just curious. Like I just wanted to see if it could be done, if there exists research on it,
Yeah.
which it does to some extent. And so like I just jumped into that, and I've done a bunch of research, and I've written stuff like written my own notes on it and whatnot. But I've never like published any of it because I was just interested to look into it, right? And so that it just became an interest after a while. And I think the gateway drug to math for me was shaders.
Yes.
And that's after that point, it was just over.
Yes. So that takes us, that's a good segue to Shader Forge. So
that old thing.
thing. Yeah. So what was the passion behind that? Because you need to be a very special person to say, like, artists can't use that. Like, no one can use this code. And so I'm going to do it. F it. I'm going to do it myself. So what was the thought? How did you start?
I just wanted it myself. Because I didn't like... So I came from Unreal before Unity.
True.
And Unreal it was called a material editor.
Yeah.
Which was a node-based shader editor, essentially. And so from switching to Unity, I was just missing my material editor. The material editor was so much fun.
Yeah.
And I, like, at the time when I was using Unreal, I hadn't really done any programming at that point. I think Unity was my big introduction to programming. And so, you know, as soon as I got a little bit more into Unity, I started learning C# and to some extent, tool development in Unity. Like, oh, you can make like extensions in Unity. That's kind of cool. And so then I just started thinking about, okay, so how do I make shaders in Unity? Like, oh, okay, so I need to write a script for that, like a shader file. That's what I need to do. And then I started like, okay, well, a lot of these concepts are very similar to the node-based editor in Unreal. So, you know, I could see all the parallels between them. Like shader code is very similar to node-based shaders in terms of the conceptual stuff that you do. And so I could kind of find familiarity in a lot of the shader code stuff. And then I just started thinking like, okay, but what if I just started making a node-based thing that basically just wrote text to a file? They just wrote a shader file, just like whatever it is I wanted to do in code, I wanted to have a node-based thing that would just write that into a shader.
Yeah.
And so I just started looking into it. So, okay, so how do I write to files? How do I make Unity plugins? And it just kind of became a whole exploration of all of that. And there's obviously, I made a ton of really bad code and shady mistakes in the way that I structured that whole project.
Cool.
But it was really fun.
Yeah.
And also, I wanted it for myself. I wanted a shader editor that was node-based, because even after I learned how to write shaders by hand, like I still like the visual aspect of having little visual previews of every single like step along the way. And that's really, really useful to artists as well, because it's hard to ask artists to write code.
Yeah.
And so that was like a huge motivating factor. And then once I had like an alpha version, I started posting in the Polycount forums, which is a 3D artist forum.
Yeah.
And that thread for Shader Forge was probably one of the biggest like things that happened for a long time, because obviously there were a lot of people who wanted a shader editor in Unity, like a node-based shader editor. So I think I just managed to hit a really lucky point in time where a lot of people wanted a shader editor.
Yeah.
But because someone else, Tim Cooper, made something called the Strumpy shader editor, because someone had already made a node-based shader editor for Unity, I think most people wouldn't even make a shader editor because they thought that we already have one. The thing is that the Strumpy shader editor was abandoned, and it was not very good, and it was not visual. It was like a node-based editor, but without any visual previews for, you know, the state of the shader. And so I wanted to make a better version of that. And so I think I was lucky in that I was kind of alone in the tool development space and making that. And there was a huge demand for it, like among game developers, because like artists obviously want a shader editor. And so it was really, really nice that once that was released, and once I gotten a ton of feedback from artists and iterated on it, and I got the the 1.0 release with started selling that in the Unity Asset Store, that just exploded in popularity. That became the thing that funded, starting Neat Corp, the studio, because it basically ShaderForge alone was making like 2 full-time salaries.
Wow.
And so
That's pretty good.
it was really, really nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. And it's just this fact that you found something that you wanted to build for yourself because you wanted to use Unity like you used Unreal, right? And it seems to be the case that a lot of Unreal, artists or whoever that were used to Unreal and they were making cool stuff with Unreal or watching cool tutorials with Unreal now can do it in Unity. Did that change? Did anything change after Unity introduced their shader graph?
Not that much. I think shader graph took longer than they had initially counted on, because so Strumpy Shader Editor was made by Tim Cooper, and Tim was hired by Unity to, I think, initially make an official shader graph editor. And so theoretically, he would have been the person to make the shader editor when around the time where ShaderForge was released. But then I think what happened was that he was moved to the UI project. So he was working on the canvas-based UI in Unity. And so I think he was kind of like lead on the whole UI project. So I think the shader graph was just put on hold for, I don't even know how many years, like 3 years or something.
Wow.
And then once shader graph came out, I had already stopped working on ShaderForge, and I think I made it open source before shader graph came out. And then also, like around that time, I also had competition with Amplify Shader Editor. And so, and Amplify, I think, was a team, and I was just one person. And I wanted to focus on my, indie game studio rather than focusing on working on ShaderForge. And so, even though ShaderForge was still making quite a lot of money, I stopped selling it because I felt like I couldn't support it anymore. And I felt kind of shitty selling something that I can't support,
Yeah, I understand.
And so I just made it open source instead, which I partially regret today. But
oh, you should.
But I think like morally, I think it was probably good. But yeah,
I get like the ethical part of it, and makes a lot of sense. And the regret, do you think it's like a financial regret? What basis you're like what are you
financially, purely financially, because it was still selling pretty well. Yeah, it had like, most things kind of have this sales curve where it sells a lot in the beginning. Like you have this like steep, start, and then it declines to like a very, very flat, flat thing. But the ShaderForge was kind of like, it exploded in the beginning and then it just had a linear slope. It was always a slope that was always moving.
Yeah.
It was just always there, and it made like a consistent amount of money.
Yeah.
And I mean, I did let go of ShaderForge mostly for psychological reasons, because I felt an obligation to support the people who bought it, and doing support work and updating it with every update of Unity was mentally taxing. Like both when I did it, because I didn't really have, well, I did have time, but it would mean, removing time from something else. So it was stressful to have to update it, but it was also stressful to not work on it, because then all the support tickets would pile up in my head, and I was like, I should work on it, I should work on it, I should work on it. Like that was in my head all the time, and I couldn't really get it out. And so, making it open source and not selling it anymore was kind of like the emergency like lever that I just pulled to be like, okay, I need to not stress over this anymore.
I mean, you've been open about Burnout, right? Before.
Yeah.
And
that was my first Burnout during that time. Yeah.
I would imagine a person like you might face or get close to Burnout because you do have this high standard and you do chase like the high standard. Not only that you do have it, but you also go after it. Like actively, right? Especially if there's money involved, and you have like also, again, because you have high standards, because that means also ethically you have high standards. Like you cannot just have maybe 30 support tickets and not solve them, right? Because you will feel bad getting the money. So what would you say, like, now to yourself looking back, that you should have done to avoid the burnout? Although it's a stupid question, but that's what people would
To
ask.
avoid the burnout?
Yeah.
Um,
Like if someone in
I don't
your
know. I
shoe,
don't know if there's
like,
anything I could have said that would have helped.
like if you could travel time right now, and like go to you back then, a year before the burnout, because burnout doesn't happen one day after the other, right? It happens after like time, because you use the
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
a chronic stress. Yeah.
yeah. So what would you say
I
to
don't know if
yourself?
there's anything I could have really done or said. I think there's a few things that I guess like there's some practical stuff around burnout that I wasn't aware of at the time. But like one of them, for instance, is that sleep is very, very important for humans in
Okay.
general. I didn't know that. I think I've just like sort of heard it mentioned a few times, but I never took it seriously. So my heuristic for, you know, if I got enough sleep, like the way that I would try to think of it is like, okay, if I wake up in the morning and I'm not tired and I'm not tired throughout the day, that means I got enough sleep last night. That is incorrect. That is not the way you should think about that. Because there are things that can happen to your head
Yeah.
where you feel awake even though you didn't actually get enough sleep. So, for example, one of those
Alert.
things is when you have cortisol in your head or adrenaline. Like all of these different types of hormones are stress hormones, and what they do is that they keep you awake even if you're technically supposed to be tired. And so that's what stress hormones do. And when you have burnout, you are overproducing stress hormones. And so I would have these nights where, you know, I would lie in bed, I just couldn't fall asleep for like 3 hours. Like even if I put away like my phone, I am not even like scrolling my phone. I'm just lying there trying to fall asleep for 3 hours and I'm not falling asleep. And then eventually I do fall asleep after 3 hours and then I sleep for like 4 hours and then I wake up and I am alert. Like I am fully awake. I don't feel tired. And I'm like, oh shit, hell yeah. I got so many more hours during this day. Like I just
Wow.
slept for only 4 hours. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Then I have more time to work on my projects. Like that is
Wow.
how I functioned during that time. And so yeah, I think the thing that I just didn't know was that your brain needs sleep in order to process everything that you've done throughout your day. And if you don't let your brain process those things, they're going to pile up and they're going to clog your brain. And you're basically going to be building towards burnout.
Yeah.
And the problem with, like, one of the biggest issues with burnout is that because it's so slow, because it creeps up on you, the cause of burnout is your behavior, and your behavior is habitual. Like, it's not like I'm making a single decision every day and I'm like, should I do this? Okay, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And then I do it. And then, you know, after 5 years, I realized that, oh, I should have just made a different decision. That's not how burnout works.
No.
Burnout is more like your entire philosophy of what you are driven to do and why is flawed and will not be sustainable. And like changing habits is so hard. Like it is so difficult.
Is it a
and so
habit by
burnout is
then, or is
really
it like
pervasive in that way.
almost like a behavior tattoo almost, right? Because like it's built.
Sorry, a behavior what?
A tattoo almost like a tattoo. It's hard to erase. You know what I mean? Like because it's built
I'm not sure I
on
would.
fundamentals and columns of things that structured your life to the way you are right now. Like there's also attachment styles to things, right? So there are people who are anxious with their attachment styles, people who are secure, and people who are avoidant. And there's also people who are disorganized that have both, which is like the worst form of attachment. And this is all behavior. It all hooks up into the behavior. So that's why behavior is so hard. It's not only a habit. Like a habit could be, you know, me picking up my nose, for example. But a behavior when it comes like to working so much, like you said, is so hard to change. It's almost like a tattoo, right?
And yeah, and also because I have my self-worth tied up into it,
Ooh, yeah, yeah,
which
yeah, yeah.
is so like the bad thing about it is that I have a habit of overworking.
Yeah.
Anytime I'm not working, I'm usually thinking about work, and I would rather do work than to hang out with my friends.
Yeah.
And anytime, like, I'm interrupted and I need to do something else, it kind of bothers me. And I want to get back to my project. Like whatever projects I'm working on for most of my life was the center of gravity for my entire being. Like that was the thing that I would always go back to. That was like my default state of mind is to work on a project. So like my default state of mind was not like hang out with my friends or talk to my family or play video games. Like that was never the center of gravity. It was
Yeah.
always my projects.
Yeah.
And so to change that is really hard because, especially in my position, because, after the release of Shaderforge, I think that was when I became a lot more of a like public figure kind of thing,
Yeah.
where like, I became more known for doing the stuff that I do. And that's like, okay, so I got a lot of social validation from that, obviously.
And capitalist, like a capital validation as well, which is
Exactly. I
enhanced
get
in our
social
brain.
validation there, or social capital, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
I also get actual capital of money
Yeah.
because, Shaderforge was a huge security of like, holy shit, I can just like, I'm financed now.
Yeah.
Whatever indie project I decide to do, I can do it, right?
Cool.
That was amazing. And so my income is tied up into it. And my reputation is tied up into it. The way that people like look at me and the way that the thing that people know about me is usually related to my work and that I'm good at doing the stuff that I do.
Yeah.
Like even for you, I mean, that's why you reached out, right? Which is not bad. Like that is the image that I projected into the world, right? And that's intentional. And it's something I've done for so long. And so to say that I should not do the things I've been doing up until this point is terrifying. Because then it's like, okay, you need to spend more time sleeping. You need to spend more time going outside. You need some kind of physical activity. You need to stop being bogged down in projects all the time. And so I'm just like, that's scary. Because now I'm like, okay, am I just going to drop all of the positive things that I've gotten from this behavior?
Yeah.
And so it's become this really like maladaptive relationship.
Yeah, it becomes like a cycle, almost like your whole behavior has changed because of the dopamine rush that you got from, not the dopamine rush, but also the validation that you've got. And it's all validation that is tattooed in our brain, almost like when we're young, especially we're like living in a capitalist society. Jack, you have to like, be rich. You have to be rich. If you're not rich, if you're not known, you're nobody. We're also social creatures. We want to be rich. We want to be popular, and we want to save like money and stuff like that. But the problem with that is that if you get and I feel like capitalism rewards burnout. Honestly, that's how I see it. It doesn't reward people who take a break.
Well, in the short term, it does, but not long term.
Yeah. Yes, and the problem with that is, or the purpose of rewarding people with burnout is that capitalism wants you to be always on your feet, like always afraid of your position, always afraid of the competition, always afraid of your own shadow, right? That's how capitalism benefits, basically. And if there's no social net, you will get stuck in your behavior and you wouldn't even notice what's wrong because you're like, why is it even wrong if I'm getting so much money? Right? I think that's what was going in your head. So, but then how did you get out of the cycle?
Well, as usual, it's hard to tell exactly when you have done it. It's definitely not like a binary state. It's very much a process.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, there are a lot of like things in medicine, or even when it comes to like physical things with your body or your mental health, like all of these things have a tendency to kind of like snowball. And once you hit burnout, it is very, very easy to start getting other mental health issues at the same time.
Oh yeah.
So I had a really, really bad period of depression once my burnout kicked in, like
Yeah.
at its worst, because because my self-worth is tied up into my work,
Yeah.
and my burnout hit a point where I was crashing, then I can't work. And if I can't work, then I feel worthless. I'm useless. Like how I am just a lazy piece of shit. I'm a has-been. Like the peak of my career is over, and there's nothing more in the future for me.
Yeah.
And if I can't do work, I can't even do the things that I enjoy doing because I turned all of my hobbies into work. And so I can't just not work either because that's my hobby. And it's like this really bizarre like culmination of things that just made it really hard for me to I don't know, just find purpose and feel hope for like all of those things that, when you have depression, those are very, very central to the things you're struggling with. And so that was like the most acute part of my burnout. And that's also when I went to rehab for that.
Wow.
So I think rehab helped a lot, even just to understand like my basic physical needs, like sleep. Like that was, I had no idea how important sleep was. I had no idea. I just thought if you're not tired, you got enough sleep and you're good to go. But no, it's really important to get sleep.
How did you learn that? Like, was it something was someone telling you about, or?
That was at rehab.
Yeah. So what were the exercises, or was it just talking that helped you?
It was a mix. It was group settings. I started out with some like more, like it started out with someone mostly explaining the biological mechanisms of burnout, like what happens in your body when you're burnt out. So it was a lot of talking about, cortisol, adrenaline, all the stress hormones.
Yeah.
What happens in your body when you are stressed, and then of course what is burnout, and then burnout, it's a chronic stress over a long period of time that then at its worst builds up into crashing. And then what happens is that you become very, very sensitive to stress in a way that in many cases can actually be permanently damaging you, where you're permanently going to be worse at dealing with stress, which is terrifying because I don't know, anything permanent negative in my brain is like my worst nightmare. And I would hate to have anything like that.
Yeah. I understand.
And so, so then it started out with kind of like lecture style stuff. We were a small group of people at rehab. I think we were like 6 people. And so then there were a few exercises in meditation to just let yourself slow down and being kind of aware of your thoughts. And then also doing stuff like getting some actual like quantitative data on your behavior. I think that's something that most people don't do almost ever. For example, like one of the exercises we did was like, okay, you have 24 hours on a timeline. Mark what you think you do during those 24 hours of your day. And then for the next week, try to see what you actually do during every like moment during that day.
Yeah.
There's quite often a big discrepancy between what you think you do and what you actually do.
Wow.
And one of the things that really clearly illustrated for me was that I work all the time. There are a few moments where I don't work, which is when I'm eating. Like when I'm eating and when I'm sleeping, I'm not working, or when I go to the grocery store.
Wow.
But then otherwise, I work because, again, my center of gravity is my projects. And again, because I turned all of my hobbies into my job, I don't really have a hobby outside of the stuff that I do because, as a content creator, it's like anything can be content. It's like, oh, I want to play a video game. Actually, maybe I can stream while I play that video game to make it into content, right? Like everything can become part of that job, right? And so it kind of like doing stuff like that kind of gives you a what's it called? Like a kind of a wake up call of like, okay, maybe this is not healthy. right? Like when you see it on paper quantitatively, I think that that's something that helped quite a lot.
Was
Another thing that, oh, sorry, continue.
so like, we'll come back to it. But was there also, so was it, how were you able to put those informations or like work? Did you write it down, just work, or was there like an element you were able to shift, like a almost like a physical thing, like buttons, for example, blue for work, right? You put work in the table, on the table, sorry, of your daily habits. Was there other, like, I the way I would imagine it is, I would realize it better if I have actual buttons like blue for work, yellow for friends, green, like what people do, right? Green for having a lunch with someone outside, right? Was it like this, or did you just realize through writing it that you were not doing what slowing down meant?
What I did was that I forget exactly the granularity, but it was either somewhere, either like every hour or every half hour or every 15 minutes. I would have like events in my Google Calendar
Oh yeah.
that was basically just a check-in. It was an event that was like, okay, hey, what are you doing right now? And then I would write that down in my
Okay.
calendar.
Yeah.
And then I just did that for about a week to see like how do I spend my time. And then in Google Calendar I also did the thing of like color coding it so I could like see which part was what
Yeah.
and all of that.
Yeah. Got it.
And so that's the way that I approached it.
That's
yeah,
so
I don't know.
smart. I think that helps a lot of people to track. I'm so glad that you're talking about like the specifics, because if someone is hearing this, they're feeling like, okay, I'm getting close. Everybody's telling me you're getting close to a burnout. Maybe I should listening to a podcast and work at the same time, but maybe I should do that with the calendar and see and track before it gets too late, because it's all about getting like, it's all about noticing it too late, almost like a cancer, right? Burnout.
Yeah.
If you notice it earlier on, like you're getting lack of sleep, right? That's one of the signs, I guess, one of the symptoms.
Yep.
Lack of sleep.
Yep.
I don't know what the other symptoms are. Like, maybe start tracking your time, like you said. I feel like that's a huge help, honestly, because we're not. It's not like we're brought up to this world, went to school, and we learned about burning out and not working too much. No one tells you that stuff. We are all set up to do your homework plus, do your homework ultra. Then you have the tests. Do a test, pass the test, but then pass the test with an A, pass the test with an A plus, with an S, whatever it is that people have. Like, we're always taught to put extra. We're never taught to chill, take it easy. No, that's the therapist's job. Who goes to therapy? Adults.
Yeah, and like one of the like references or like ways of looking at your moment to moment life that was kind of helpful to me as well was a kind of like try to think of how do you spend your time and where your mind is in time. This sounds weird. Okay, so what I mean is basically like in your day-to-day life, how much do you think about the past? How much do you think about the present? And how much do you think about the future?
Oh,
like
that's huge.
Like how much time do you spend doing these things throughout the day? And what I realized when we did this exercise at rehab was that I spend 0 time in the moment, and I almost never think about the past. I only think about what I'm about to do next.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it would be stuff like, if I'm working on a project, which I usually do, I'm at home working on it, and then, it's dinner, I go to the fridge and I'm like, oh, right, I need to get groceries. So what I do then is like, okay, well, like I'm going to start writing a list of the things that I'm supposed to do soon at the grocery store. So I'm starting to write a list. And then maybe I'm like putting on a podcast. So I'm listening to something about a theoretical future or how relationships are going to turn out with some political stuff.
Yeah.
And then while I'm walking to the grocery store, I'm sorting my list of groceries so that when I go through the grocery store, I have like an optimized path, so I don't have to spend that much time in the grocery store, so that I can get home as quickly as possible, so I can work on my project again, so that I can then release the project in the future. And then like my head is never in the present. It's never in the present. I never let myself just be and like see things around me and like just take it in and don't have any expectation on what I'm supposed to do. That is so unfamiliar to me. And that's, again, these things are habitual. It's not like I'm intentionally just thinking about the future, or if you're someone who's dwelling on the past, like it's not like people do these things intentionally. It's just like what you default to do, right? And a big part of burnout, or a big part that can help in burnout, is to slow yourself down and be present in the moment. Like just take in the world around you with no other expectations. And so for me, a lot of these things have helped in the way that I'm more conscious about it right now, where, you know, everything is not just a means to an end. Like when I'm going to the grocery store, like I don't give a shit about what's along the way to the grocery store. I just want to get my groceries so that I can leave the store, so I can just get home, and so then I can just continue on my project to like finish something that I want to release. Like I never let myself just stop and just observe what's around me. Like it's all just this like relentless train where I'm just like always looking like forward. And a big problem with that is that when you're only thinking about the future, and especially if your future is only thinking about one project, you are going to be like isolating yourself into a headspace where you don't get any variety, you don't get any kind of like unexpected impressions. If you're like always wearing headphones and listening to a podcast, then maybe you listen to it every day. Like that's still the same type of stimulus and the same type of things you're thinking about. Your headspace is always the same thing.
The environment.
And humans are not good at dealing with being in the same space day in and day out. Even like just mentally.
Like you're touching you're touching upon so many good points there. Like one of the points is this reminiscing, right, about the past or about the future. I was reading the book ADHD 2.0 because I have ADHD and sometimes I want to know like more about it. One of the main things about ADHD people is it's huge. So there's the back side of the mind. It has a name, but I don't remember the names. I'm not an expert on this. For everybody, read the book and you will know it. So there's the back side of the brain that focuses on your past and your future. That's where memory is. And the front side of the brain focuses on like the now, the actual tasks that you have to do like right now, right? And neurotypical people have a switch, and they could like a light switch, right? I can turn it off, I could turn it on, right?
You have executive function.
Executive function, exactly. For ADHD people, we have a faulty switch. It turns on and it turns off in moments that we don't want it to turn on and in moments that we don't want it to turn off. That's why we can focus on something and then we're not focusing anymore, right? And the reason we go into hyperfocus more than any other people is because we can operate both sides of the brain. Meaning, other people have a switch, right? We switch very quickly, and we can do the back side of the brain and the front side of the brain, but only if the connection between both is positive. How does that come into action? Like as follows: you're focusing on the future of what the current task could give you. Right? So it could be anything that you're working on, like a YouTube channel, for example. That's how I see it. My YouTube channel, it could be 2,000 subscribers, 3,000 subscribers. That's why I keep doing the content. I'm hooking the future with the executive function. The problem with that is if you keep reminiscing about the past, you become dysfunctional. Like, you cannot function because you cannot change the past. The past cannot be something. You can't fix it. And most of us just focus on the past and we reminisce about the past. But the cool thing about reminiscing about the past, it comes in creatively very good because we take our past experience and we make something creative about it. For example, me going away from Syria, I was able to make a game about that, for example, because I reminisce about the past like that. Another thing that I want to talk about is the moment this, I don't know if you have ADHD or whatever, like I don't want to go there, but
I do, yeah.
You do? Okay. So
Yeah.
Which
I didn't know until I went to rehab, but yeah.
So you had a diagnosis after later on, basically?
Yeah, like it was when I was talking to the people at the rehab. There were a few like mental exercises that we did where I could not relate to the way that the other people described their experiences. And so after a while, one of the doctors there just suggested that we could, or not doctor, therapist, said that it's something I should maybe look into. And so I did. And then I did get a diagnosis on both ADHD and autism.
Interesting.
And that's also been a huge change in my life. Just like medicating the ADHD has been weird. And I don't know. It's been interesting.
So you're basically taking meds as well. I also take meds, so I'm very pro meds. I just wonder because it is very different from a person to person, and only if you're open to talking about or discussing.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Because that's a journey. Like, especially the different, biological needs or biological structure between like the different people, not only the genders, but like the different people out there. We are all complex. For some people, like a medication like atomoxetine, for example, can stress them out. And for others, it could bring that a bit of stress to make them function. Like me, I take atomoxetine, but like if my wife has also ADHD, if she takes atomoxetine, I think she will be like completely burned out, you know what I mean? Because she has anxious coping ADHD. I have procrastination coping ADHD. Two different beasts.
Okay.
Anyway, back to you.
Oh, I never heard about that distinction.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Are you interested in it? The anxious and the... I could talk about it a little bit.
I've heard about it in terms of attachment theory, but not in terms of ADHD types.
It's not the type. It's just a coping. It's definitely an attachment. Like it's related to it a lot. It's just that when people are diagnosed later in their life, they have lived their life with ADHD, but they coped in a way. Some people
right, yeah.
So I cope with procrastination because I'm an avoidant person. She copes with anxiety because she has anxiety attachment, and that's just like part of the game. So we have to go around.
I think for me, I guess in that case, my coping mechanism, if it is a coping mechanism, I'm not sure, but like I think a lot of the way that I see work and the amount of time I put into work, I think it's because that was the only thing that gave me the dopamine. And so I think that was kind of like being in those like hyper focused moments was I was chasing that all the time. And I would never, and you know, that this is something that also changed with medication because like I mentioned, whenever I was in a social situation with my friends, I could not stop thinking about what I wanted to do next on my projects.
Wow.
I was always like, I just want to go home. I just want to work on my project. I don't want to sit here and talk about some local politician who did something, which I don't know. I don't even follow the news. I don't know. Like, I just want to go home. Like, it was always in my mind. Like, I just want to go home. I just want to go home. I just want to go home. And so like hanging out with friends was never something enjoyable or relaxing to me. It was always something I did for them. Like I did it because I know that they wanted me to be there. And so like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And like, and so, and also because I kind of wanted to remain friends with them and it feels shitty to never be there. And like, I don't know, but it was always this really weird relationship with friends that I had. And even with my partner, I sometimes when I talk to my family or talk to my partner, I also still have that thing in my head that I just want to go back to working on my projects.
Yeah.
And what that does is that it makes me feel kind of shitty because I'm like, I should just give them time. Like, Jesus Christ, we're family or we're in a relationship. I should how can I just keep on thinking about something else when I should be there for them right now? I feel like a shitty person.
I have the same feeling.
And so what that led me to is that I was like, well, maybe I should just avoid hanging out with people if I'm just feeling stressed all the time when I hang out with people. But of course, social isolation is also bad for brains, so that's not good either. But then as soon as I started medication, all of a sudden, I didn't have that voice in the back of my mind all the time. All of a sudden, I was like, I can have a conversation with someone and just be there in the moment. And that was so like eye-opening for me.
Wow.
It was so bizarre to just like, I don't know. It's kind of like I think one of the things that people does not, well, it's kind of a mix of both burnout and ADHD that kind of played into each other in a bad way for me. But I think when people think about burnout, I think people sort of see it as you're driving this car and you crashed into a wall, or like your engine stopped working and it's not functioning properly anymore because like you struggle to work, right?
Yeah.
That's not a good analogy for burnout. Burnout is more like your tires have no grip, but your engine is trying so fucking hard all the time to do something all the time. So like burnout happens not because like you don't like your job and you're kind of depressed about it and you're like, oh, I'm so burnt out on my job. That's not what burnout is. Burnout is when you are trying so hard all the time and you're really, really driven to do the best work that you can do. And you're so single-mindedly focused on it to the point where you're building up chronic stress. And so I think my theory, at least, I don't know if this is actually true, but my theory is that because of the ADHD, I think that worsened my burnout. Where like if I never gotten into burnout to begin with, I think I would have been more fine. But once I started getting into that habit of stressing myself out all the time, the ADHD just made it worse. And there was no way for me to like get out of it that I could find until I medicated it. And all of a sudden, I like looking back at rehab, I was like, okay, now I can do all of these exercises. And now I can actually sort of see the benefit of it. Because now it's like, it suddenly became so much easier to live in the moment. I could just sit down with someone and have a conversation with them and feel like that was the only thing that existed in my universe. I could just be there with someone and talk to them. That was hard for me before. I could do it. Like externally, it would look as if I was having a normal conversation with someone, but my head was never like there. I was always thinking about something else.
I think for me, it was like the best way to put it that made sense to me was it's like having side issues, and yet someone comes to you and tells you you have to analyze this tree and draw it. And of course, you're going to suck at it until you get your glasses on, which is the meds in that case. Then you can start analyzing. That's the problem. Like the problem between an able person and like, I don't want to say disabled, but like a different person is that they don't see through your lens. And then they put their values on you, right? Like with ADHD,
especially when it comes to mental stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because it's so invisible, like in so many ways. Yeah.
Like one of the advice you get, it's unsolicited, of course. When you're young, you're like, just start it. Just start doing it. Just focus. I wish it was so simple. Why are you asking me to read a book while I can't see? You know, like why are you asking me to go up the stairs if I have a wheelchair? You know, like. People, please stop telling your children to just focus. Please get them checked.
Yeah, and like, yeah, it's frustrating as well because it is so hard to get other people to see it from your perspective. It's kind of like there's something similar when it comes to things like depression as well. I think when you have depression. And people give you advice that's like, oh, but you have so much stuff going for you. Like you're doing your dream job, you're financially stable, like you're like you have a partner that you love, and like all of these things are so wonderful and cool. Like people kind of like try to remind you of that as a way to try to alleviate your depression. But the problem is that like that's not the point, or that's not the thing that is causing the depression. Like the thing with your depression is that your fundamentals are gone. Like like you feel like there's no purpose to being alive anymore. Like you have no hope. Like there's nothing that feels worth doing because there is no motivation to even do. Like it's so fundamental and it doesn't matter. Like all of the external factors, like you can tell someone with depression so many wonderful things about their lives or try to do something for them or give them something, but the problem is entirely internal and it is like at the root of your thought process. And so like it's so hard to get out of it partially because of that. It's such a fundamental pillar that's just not there, but people think it's there. And so they think certain advice that works for people who still have that pillar is going to work, but it just doesn't. And so yeah, that's one of the trickier parts with any kind of mental health issue is that if you haven't gone through the experience yourself, it's hard to relate to it. Yeah.
Would you say, like, I've never been depressed, maybe once, but like, would you say it feels like you're being stuck? And no matter how hard you try, you just can't get out? Or you don't even find the point in it
No,
because you know it's not
depression,
going to work?
no, I think it's more like, why would you even try to get out? Like you don't have the motivational driver to see a reason to get out.
Just no
Like,
fuel, nothing, no
Yeah.
spark.
So like if you're like, sometimes people use it in common speech of just like, oh, I'm feeling a little depressed. That's not depression, like the clinical type of depression, right?
Yeah.
When you're feeling a little depressed, it's because something happened that caused you to feel sad about something or demotivated. And in those moments, it does genuinely help to remind yourself of all the things that's going for you and the things that make you happy. Like that does help when you are feeling a little depressed. But when you have the like actual depression, that doesn't land. It's just bounces off immediately because it's so much deeper than that. That's when you just you lose hope, and I don't think I realized how much that matters until I had depression.
And so, what would you say? Like, I've known depressed people in my life. Not just depressed, but they had depression. They were taking medication, everything. I didn't...
Also, just to be clear, my depression was relatively acute and relatively short, so I haven't been dealing with like the really long-term chronic depression. Yeah.
Just on a note where we could say like, do you feel that still? So it's over, right? Or would you say you're
I mean,
overcome?
sometimes I do feel depressed in the more common ways of thinking about it. But I don't have that sense of lack of hope anymore. I do still have it, but it is on a little bit shaky ground. It's not like it's super solid. But,
okay, got it.
Yeah.
So
but I'm not like medicating for depression, or I did for a while, and it was god awful. So yeah, right now I'm not medicated for it.
I've literally been on the other side of trying to understand, right, and super hard trying to help.
Yeah,
so,
oh yeah, it sucks.
Sucks.
It feels like, I don't know, you feel like you desperately want to help and you want to do something, and there's just almost nothing you can do. It's really, really rough. And do like, not my ex, but my ex once removed. She was suffering from really, really severe long-term depression, and I constantly felt bad for not being able to be there for her, and then there was also this like secondary effect where I felt like any struggles that I had were so small in comparison that who am I to bring up my issues when she's suffering from something super severe, right? It was just a really rough situation where it's just hard to know what to do to help.
And my wife told me this like very clearly, and I think I agree with her, because a lot of people say like, be glad you're in this country or whatever you are, because other people can't find a way to eat. She said to me, comparison, like, no matter what, worse or better, is bad. Comparison is bad. Comparison is horrible. It's unfair. You can't compare yourself with someone else because we're all different. We're all unique in our own ways, right? And so even in the worst, in that case, I feel like it becomes unfair because you can't see things through their eyes. You can't see things through their brain, right?
Mhm.
And so what the worst thing that happened to you is the worst thing that happened to you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But you are allowed to feel bad if the worst thing that happened, not you, but like anybody else. If the worst thing that happened to you, you're, I don't know, privileged as, whatever, European, worst thing happened to you, your dad didn't buy you the Audi that you wanted, but you really wanted the Golf. Like, or they bought you the Golf instead of the Audi. Then that's the worst thing that happened. You're still allowed to be sad in that sense because it's literally the worst thing that happened to you.
Mhm.
But I can't come to you and be like, hey, you shouldn't be sad because, right there in the
Yeah,
world.
that just never lands.
It
It
never
just
lands.
never. And I mean, we even see this thing with even just one person over time. When when you're a child, you probably went through something that felt really difficult for you. Like maybe you had like your first relationship when you were in school or something, and you were together for so long, and then that breakup was so rough. And then later on, you find out that like, oh, that was just a month. It was a month-long relationship, and that was like the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Mm.
And like I think it's a mistake to dismiss those kids and just be like, come on, it was just a month. Like, Jesus Christ, that's nothing. Like, why are you feeling shitty about this? Like,
Yep.
that's not going to make them feel better.
No.
It's going to make them feel worse.
Exactly. It will stress them.
Because then
Like,
it's like, oh, okay, so my sadness is not even something I should feel. I guess I need to suppress my emotions forever now.
not
Like,
only suppress, but like, because I used to tell my wife, like, why are you sad? In Syria, we don't even have anything, right? And she's like, yeah, so it's just gonna make me feel worse because then I'll be like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so sad? I'll just get depressed then, even worse, right? So like comparison generally, like maybe don't go that route. Maybe try to maybe ask how are you feeling.
yeah, but even that doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Yeah.
I think I mean, one thing that will always work though is to be there for them in
Yeah.
the sense of like being an ear, like just listening to people who have struggles. Just that alone, I think, is important. And
I
then
struggle with that. I can't do that at
anything
all.
on top of that is like it really depends on the person. It's so hard to like predict that.
All right, so let's. I think that was great talking about those things. And thank you for being so open about it.
Yeah, no worries.
I think it's important to talk about the topics and to stay open because it's again like sharing knowledge. So you mentioned Neat Corp.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit more.
Oh boy, switching gears. Now I need to get out of my depression mind. Yeah, Neat Corp. Well, Neat Corp was a studio that I started with my ex once removed. Not a very good idea to start a company with your partner. It's be careful with that.
Yeah.
It can be you can get weird incentives. Yeah. Anyway, so we started a company and we had the goal of making indie games. And so I had this little project that I've been working on called Flowstorm, which is kind of like a little racing game with this tiny little rocket.
Cool.
Which was I had just been working on that on the side, like during the time I worked on Shaderforge.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh, maybe we should like turn that into like an actual commercial release.
Mm-hmm.
So we went to GDC, and that's when we met. We randomly walked up to a table at some like Unity party or something. And I think the two people that were there were Chet Falazek and Aaron Leiby, who both work at Valve.
Wow.
And I had no idea. This was just completely by chance.
Wow.
And we were like, oh shit, okay. And then we started talking, and Chet, he was kind of like the head of managing relationships with people who do VR projects.
Oh wow.
And so he was the VR person at Valve pretty much for doing communications. And so that's when I just kind of asked him like, hey, oh, if you have this like dev kit, it would be kind of cool to play with it, right? And he was like, yeah, sure. Like completely just casual about it. And it was like, yeah, we can get you a dev kit. Why not? And so that was kind of the start of the whole VR journey. In the very like early days of VR when it hadn't really solidified. That was really interesting. Like just the from so many perspectives, VR game development was different in ways that I think people outside of VR probably don't even know. It's just a very different space to work in when it comes to game design. And that was so cool because like we were in touch with other developers, like people at Alchemy who did Job Simulator. They were super nice, and all of us were kind of like talking to each other, trying to figure out like how to do, like what is the strategy for making games in VR, because it is really hard. Like there's like not just the renderings. Like rendering is weird in VR because you have two cameras instead of just one, right?
Yeah.
Because you have two eyes
and high resolution.
What?
And super high resolution too.
Yeah, and very wide field of view, and that's also a problem, like technically.
Yeah.
And then, from the game design perspective, you have so many new problems because the player can move the camera all the time because their camera is. You have to let them control the camera with their head. If you don't do that, they're going to get nauseous, and so there's a bunch of games that you just can't make in VR in terms of the camera movements. So if you think of any game where the camera moves, like an RTS game, like in an RTS, like I don't know, like League of Legends or whatever, or like MOBAs, like moving the camera in a MOBA, that makes you nauseous. You just can't do that in VR.
In a VR, yeah.
It's like, yeah. Or like a first-person shooter. If you just move the character, you're gonna get nauseous. Like it is like any. I was gonna say movement. Technically, it's acceleration that's the problem. But any acceleration on the camera, you just can't do that in VR.
Because I was thinking, just to interrupt a little bit, just quickly, I was thinking like in a VR, if you would make an RTS, then you would make it like, instead of you moving, you would make the ground move with your hand. Like
yes, but you would have to make it, you would have to have some kind of point of reference to make sure that that is the perception that you have. Because even if you just move the ground, you can kind of get that effect you get when you're sitting like on a subway train and you see the other train starts moving. It almost feels like you're the one moving because you're seeing the world around you move, right? And it is the perception that is the problem. And so so even if you have some kind of static reference, that has to be kind of dominant in your visual space. So a common example of this is like if you're making a racing game in VR or you're in a cockpit of some airplane or something, the cockpit itself has to be a pretty big part of your visual space. If the window in front of you is too big, then you're going to get nauseous because now you don't really have that frame of reference anymore.
True. Makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, and so it's basically the nausea you get in VR is basically reverse car sickness. So if you're like sitting in the back of a car reading something, the problem is that your body is feeling a bunch of forces or acceleration, but your visual field sees something that's perfectly still. Right? VR is the opposite, where you are not feeling any forces at all, but you see something that looks as if you should be feeling a force on your body. Because if someone actually moved the camera, you would feel that if you moved to the side all of a sudden. And so this is in biology or just in biology in general, and your inner ears, the thing that's called is a vestibular mismatch. Because your vestibular systems, your balance systems in your ears, you get a mismatch between what you're seeing and what you're feeling. And that is what's causing motion sickness. And so when you make VR games, the very basic thing of moving your camera, which is like the first thing you implement in any game almost, that is a challenge. So now you have to try to work around that. And it's hard. And so usually you would have to do something like, well, you can teleport, because when you teleport, you don't really, there's no acceleration there. You just like instantaneously you're in a new location. And it's like, oh, okay, so then I don't get super nauseous. But then there's also a little bit of a caveat here because at one part of budget cuts, you are standing on top of a train that's moving. And that actually works pretty okay. And the reason for that is that when you're moving on something that's moving at a constant speed, there's no acceleration there. And because there's no acceleration, you don't get nauseous. And so everything is always about acceleration. So any linear motion is fine, but acceleration is not fine. So
Wow.
Even if you have a character that's moving at linear speeds, starting and stopping is acceleration, but the movement itself doesn't involve acceleration. And so it just, I don't know, it was just kind of interesting that you have to like dig into all of these like psychological, like
Yeah.
the psychophysics of your balance system. It's interesting.
I had
Yeah.
a friend who, like, VR addict, who had a huge motion sickness, but I was like asking him, how do you, because what he does, he drifts with like VR, within VR, and he drifts in there. I tried it for like 5 minutes, couldn't anymore, right? I was about to throw up. I was like, hey, how did you come over this? And he's like, I just, it's he said that it is a what is it called, a
Psychological?
psychosymptomatic, whatever it's called. It's
Psychosomatic.
psychosomatic, yeah. So you can convince your brain that you're not moving, and then your brain just is like, okay, I'm not moving. But you have to be like really having that like be able to convince yourself so much, right?
Exactly. And that's why the cockpit is important. The more you show of the cockpit, the better, because then it's like, okay, I'm not moving. Like
Yeah.
you get reminded of that.
And the problem with that is that you can't start a game with a disclaimer like, hey, you should convince yourself that you're not moving.
Oh, yeah.
No one will
that
do
doesn't
that.
work. No.
It doesn't work. So you have to make the game kind of work around that. I wanted to ask you, like...
You could also just not do that and
Yeah.
not care about people getting motion sick. And there was kind of that was kind of a big discussion in the VR community or VR developer community at the time of like, is it okay to make games where you do get motion sick? And so there was kind of a big discussion there because there are some people who don't get motion sick.
Yeah, that's true.
Which I think they're in a minority, but it's not like a super small minority. I think it's like, I don't know, like my intuition says that it's about 10%. That I have no data to back that up. That's just my vibe based on how people talk about it.
Yeah.
And so then the question is like, is it responsible to release games that make people motion sick when we're so early in VR, where we're like, a lot of us were kind of like, well, it's kind of the very first few games in VR. If people's first impression is that you're going to get motion sick, that's kind of not a good impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And VR was such a hard one because you need the hardware to feel it, right? So
it's a huge investment as well. It's expensive and it's difficult to set up. And it's like, yeah, it's a big thing.
Yeah, and if the games are unplayable, like you said, first impression is, VR will get you dizzy. No one is going to buy the hardware, and then there's no more money for VR development. So you caught VR development very early on with Neat Corp, right?
Yeah.
And so you almost got offered a job, basically, and you were like, at one point, and now we're coming back, we're coming full circle, 2018. You thought to yourself, no, I want to make my own games. Where did it go from there?
Well, I kept on. I stayed at Neat Corp for a while, and this was during my burnout. So that was like right at the end of the release of Budget Cuts. And I took a short break, and then we'd started working on the sequel, like Budget Cuts 2, and I struggled to get back into it. And I think there's like one of the things with burnout is that like the environment you're in that gets you burnt out is something you kind of have to try to let go of it and try to change that environment. So usually for people who don't run their own companies or whatever, it's like changing jobs or changing the stuff you do at work would be a good like thing to do. But yeah, so then what kind of happened was that, Neat Corp was a very small studio. We were like 5 people full time, and then we had maybe 2 freelancers on and off. And because a lot of us were like friends, like we were friends who started a company together. Once we were like about to release Budget Cuts 2, and we were trying to figure out what to do next, we had this whole like pitch meeting where we all had our own like game ideas we wanted to pitch for the stuff that we wanted to do next. And then what basically happened was that almost the entire company, everybody at the company, wanted to do a specific project, and I was the only one who didn't want to work on that project. and I felt kind of shitty about that because, like, yeah, technically I'm a co-founder. I could like put my foot down and be like, no, we're not going to work on this project because I don't want to work on it. But I felt shitty about it, so I didn't do that. And then we started working on another project, which is fine. It's not like a bad project or anything. It was just not my type of project. It was called Garden of the Sea. So it's kind of like a farming game in VR. And
Yeah.
I was just not excited about it, personally. And then, so like the combination of that, of struggling to work on budget cuts too, and not being excited about the next project, I think when I started realizing what I needed to do to get out of burnout at that time was to find my passion again and the things that I enjoyed doing.
Yeah, makes sense.
And so that's when I realized that I want to work on my own projects. I just need that. I need to care about the stuff that I work on. If I don't care about what I'm working on, I'm not going to be able to do the work.
This podcast is brought to you by ADHD.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, like that's the way I've functioned my entire life. I need to make sure that the thing I'm doing is interesting to me.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a difficult decision to eventually leave Neat Corp because again, it's like my friends, and it felt kind of shitty, like just like interpersonally to not hang out with your friends anymore. But I think it was the right choice. Given I think I kind of didn't really have much of a choice in terms of my burnout. I think I needed that to get out of my first round of burnout.
It's like you said, right? Yeah. So even your hobby is your job, then even your friends are your job in a way, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all just one blob.
Yeah. And it's important to have like a little bit like skills. It's also important to have friends from other aspects. I've seen that cycle over and over again where I work in a studio, they're all friends, they all know each other. It's even hard to get in a studio where it's just they're all friends because you just always feel like you're the outsider, right? Like they would be talking about things, hey, let's hang out afterwards and da-da-da, and you're like, probably not involved in that, and I should not involve myself either, right? Yeah, it's important to have friends. I mean, do you navigate that like this these days? Do you say like, I need to make a cooking course somewhere and have friends from there or something? I don't
know. No, I'm very bad at socializing. I'm very bad at doing that. I think I mostly do that in terms of work. So like my socialization is, well, I got invited to do a talk at a conference. So I can meet people there, right? Like that's usually it's tied to work in some form or another. So it's very rare, like outside of that.
I mean, you also want your friends to have the same interests, right? Like care about the same things, talk about common things.
But even then, that doesn't really motivate me to hang out with people. So I'm not sure. I just have a super low drive for socializing. I just get almost nothing out of it, like just emotionally, or I just don't really enjoy it, and so it's hard for me to get myself to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm married to a person who's exactly like that. I get it. I'm also a bit like that.
But of course, it's also like that's still not good for my brain. Like I still like need socialization in terms of like mental health. So, but it also feels kind of shady to treat your friends as like a checkbox to try to feel better.
Like, one.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's an ADHD thing. We struggle with like making things interesting, and if there's no purpose, why should I reach out to someone? Almost, which is shitty to say, but I also fall into the same category, right? Like sometimes I have the thought, I never did it, but sometimes I have the thought to like have an automated thing to just reach out to everybody like, hey, how are you doing? If I ever reach out to you, that is not a bot. If I ever say, hey, how are you doing? That's not a bot, I promise. Yeah. We talked a bit about Neat Corp. We're reaching, I think, the end, right? You're probably, getting there to go. Basically, we've been recording for 2 hours. Wow.
Oh, in terms of time? So I've got... I got about 20 minutes more.
Yeah, cool. That's about the time that I had in mind, where we just like close the thoughts, like bring it all home and...
Still haven't talked about my most recent project, though.
Let's go.
So
that's the time.
or wait, 2 most recent, 3.
4.
So it was when I left Neat Corp that I started streaming, doing YouTube. Although we talked about the YouTube stuff. But when I left, I also made another plugin for Unity called
Cool.
Shapes.
All right.
And now I'm working on. Now it started out as a plugin, but now it's a standalone software.
Okay.
But now I'm working on a project called Half Edge, which is a 3D modeling tool.
Okay.
So that's what I'm spending most of my project time on, apart from video work.
All right. Do your pitch. Let us know.
Do my pitch. It depends on the audience. So,
and
are you a
you're
2D artist, a 3D artist,
The generalist.
programmer, technical
generalist.
artist?
That's the audience.
What do you gravitate toward the most?
Real-time VFX.
Or actually,
maybe,
what are you
or,
least experienced in within game development?
environment art.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you done 3D modeling?
Yeah.
Okay. What about 2D art?
Yes. I've done that too.
Okay. So my pitch for 2D artists is usually that Half Edge is the Procreate of 3D modeling.
Oh.
That's
all right.
That's my goal.
That's a good pitch for 2D artists. All right.
Right?
Yeah.
For 3D artists, my pitch is usually Half Edge is aiming to be a 3D modeling tool that has a UV editor that doesn't want to make you kill yourself. So that's usually works for 3D artists.
YouTube will hate this, but I'll take it. Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, feel free to censor yourself. But
all right.
I think I said the F word like 3 times. So I don't know if you need to reduce it to 1 or whatever the limit is for.
You know how it is with ADHD. You just remember something and then you forget it. So I care about it for a second, then I like fuck it.
But yeah, so the well, it's honestly all of my tools have the same origin story, I suppose. The origin story is I want it, and so I wanted to make it.
So why did you want to make a Half Edge, I guess?
Well, because when I left Neat Corp, I no longer had a Maya license, and I don't want to give Autodesk like $1,600 a month.
Yes.
Because Autodesk is kind of shitty about their pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I missed Maya. Like I just miss 3D modeling. And for a long time, I just stopped modeling because I no longer had access to Maya. And, I could, of course, use Blender. And so there was a time where I tried to learn Blender and I didn't like it. It was very strange in many ways. It was very convoluted. It was huge. And I just didn't vibe with it at all. And then I think the moment I was exposed to Blender's UV editor for like more than 5 minutes, I was radicalized into making my own modeling tool because I was just like, this is garbage. This is so bad. And so at that point, I was just like, I'm gonna see how far I can get making my own 3D modeling tool.
All right.
And so that's Half Edge. Yeah.
Okay. Can people get that already, or?
It's still in development, so I will have an alpha. It's a closed alpha test, so that's going to be in a few months, depending on how much more time I'm going to spend looking for cats. So yeah, it's not out yet. I do post about it every now and then. I do have a website for it, so it's halfedge.xyz, and it's half-edge. So that's the website. So yeah, I share updates every now and then, but it's just my main programming project right now.
That sounds interesting, honestly, because it's just so huge.
It is a huge project. Yeah. That it's, but in some sense, it's kind of the culmination of. Speaking of generalists, it feels like the culmination of a lot of the stuff that I've done throughout my career.
Yeah.
Like, I started out as a mapper, like making levels for games.
Yeah.
And in the source engine, you would create geometry yourself in the editor, right?
Yeah.
And then I got into doing 3D art, and then I got into doing shaders and then technical art. And so, I've sort of been in the camp of being a mapper and doing level geometry.
Yeah.
I've been in the camp of doing 3D modeling and then doing shader work and technical art and programming, and then also tool development with Shader Forge and Shapes. I feel like I have a huge part of the skill set that you would need to make a 3D modeling tool. Because I think a lot of tools suffer from the fact that the person making the tool is often not the user.
Yeah.
So any tool for artists is usually made by programmers who don't really have that experience of doing art in tools.
Yeah.
And I think I'm in a relatively unique position in that I have done 3D art and 2D art, and I know how I want level editors to work when it comes to geometry. And I have a ton of experience now programming and doing technical art and the shader work that's required to make a 3D modeling tool. And also in terms of UX, of like what makes a good interface, what hotkeys should I use, what's a good layout or structure for the user, like the user experience. That experience I've also gotten from my tool development. And so I kind of have all the parts for making something like this on my own. So I think I can make something that's going to be good. I just need to spend the time to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what are your short-term goals in terms like of success when it comes to Havage? And what are your long-term success goals?
So, well, the release of Havage is the primary goal, well, apart from the alpha test.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends on how long of a time span you mean with short term.
So what I meant by goals is beyond the release. Like, what do you want it to do? What do you want it to be successful at?
Right now for 1.0, I'm aiming for a mid-poly modeling tool for indie developers. That's the target. So it's going to focus on modeling. It's not going to focus on animation or rigging or skinning for 1.0. So it's just going to be polygonal modeling. And after that, it depends on the reception, I think. So like if it just flops entirely, I might give up on the project because I think polygonal modeling gets me like 80% there for what I need it for.
Yeah.
But if it blows up and it becomes a huge thing and suddenly I have a lot of money, then I think I would spend a lot more like effort and time into developing it further. So then it would expand into also having like all the animations and skinning and rigging features. But then it just depends on like what is most needed, I think, at that point. Yeah.
What's that?
Because like there's an infinite number of things you can add to it, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm never going to be able to compete with Blender when it comes to features, right?
No.
So I think the making sure I have good UX, just like Procreate has, where like, sure, you can do 2D art in GIMP, and GIMP has more features than Procreate. And GIMP is open source and free, just like Blender. But if you ask a 2D artist if they like using GIMP or Procreate more, like everybody is going to enjoy Procreate so much more than GIMP. Because GIMP suffers so much from having not great UX for illustrators, right? So I think I'm going to hone in on that particular edge that I have of making a 3D modeling tool that's specifically for game development, because none of the other modeling tools are for game developers. They just happen to support game development work, right? But they were all made for cinema or like animation work. And so there's a bunch of stuff that I think I can push that will be unique to Half Edge, even though it might not have all the features.
Honestly, if you can get that done, I can see a lot of students instead of... So here's the problem about being a self-learner, is that you do not get licenses. You're stuck with Blender. You have no other choice. I don't mean stuck in a bad way, but I wish there was other options. Honestly speaking, I like Blender and all, but I also enjoy Houdini. Also Houdini has an educational license, but at least Houdini, supports online courses. They're like, you know what? You can get the educational licenses with all the features in it for a year. I was like, awesome. I can't do that with Maya. I can't do that with ZBrush. And I'm like you, where I can't take bullshit. I really can't take bullshit. I need to learn, dude. I'm not going to pay you 700. I'm just not going to do that. A year.
It's way too much. Yeah, it's prohibitive.
Much.
And
I don't care if it's industry standard or not, dude. Like the way... I'm not telling you, dude, but like them, I'm like, fuck, I have to learn. I'm spending 1,500 a month for you to get my lessons and I'm still learning, I'm not gonna do that. There's no support for
Yeah,
me.
and especially for game developers, where it's like,
Yeah.
okay, big corporation, how many features have you gotten me the past 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like almost nothing.
Absolutely.
Like if I look at Photoshop, like how many new features in Photoshop like have I gotten like since I started using it? It's like almost nothing.
Nothing. CS6 was the last thing I know how
and
Photoshop
it's
looked like.
And it's like, what are you spending all your time on and money on? Because we're all giving you so much money and we're not getting results from it. We're just getting the same thing, but now it has some AI features that I don't care about.
That's still
like,
your work.
It's so
not only you don't
it's
care.
so thankless. It's like fuck off.
Yeah. For real.
Like you don't deserve all this money. Like Jesus Christ. And so like part of that is also like the spite behind also wanting to make Half Edge, because I'm so tired of subscription rackets from.
Thank
from
you.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I looked into, because I have this deep passion to do like stylized art, like hand painted. I know it's mentioned a lot, but I really have passion for stylized hand painted environments. I'm probably reaching close to ending this, but anyway, the problem with that is you need to use 12 softwares if you want to go industry standard, right? Like first you need to use Maya. Cool. All right. Next step. Then you have Substance Painter. All right. Cool. Next step. You have 3D Coat. Okay. Cool. Next step. You do whatever.
Like I don't know, Top Gun or something. Or
baking
like...
in tool bag, whatever bullshit. I don't hate them, but like, oh, this is the best baking tool, and this is the best blah, 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 blah. Why do I need 12 softwares to do one simple fucking task that I can do in any stupid 2D program? Seriously. Like, I can take a cube and paint it in Photoshop if I wanted to, but no, now you need 12 softwares to solve one fucking problem. Like, are we crazy? Like, isn't this doable in one software? Like, sometimes I go like, this must be all doable in Blender, and the answer is yes. You just have to look and dig deep into it, and then do it on your own. But
But then usually the problem is that like you sort of run into the same issue with GIMP of like, can you technically do this thing in GIMP? Yes.
Yes.
Do I enjoy doing it in GIMP?
No.
And is it efficient? No.
No.
So that's kind of how you have this like.
I would really love it if I could get into like the early alpha test, because like I share the same passion in hating the situation right now, and I do believe that we need to go back to being able to own things and buy things and not just like agree to an EOLA that will take our lives away from us almost and just enslave us and our work forever. What the hell are we doing? Greed. And yet people like you...
Have you seen the...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, continue.
And yet people like you are worried if you don't do like a support ticket like you're supposed to. You know what I mean? Like the world is giving money to people who don't care. It's just unfair.
Yeah, it's really lopsided. And it's just the incentives are just kind of misaligned, and it's hard to right the ship when they have like an almost monopoly on the market.
Yep.
Yeah, it sucks.
You can forget almost. Substance is monopoly. ZBrush is complete monopoly. No software.
There is the one.
Yeah.
What's it called? Mudbox? Or...
From Autodesk, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think Blender is the closest to ZBrush, and it's not even that good. Like, this is how much... Like, if you could bring, like, sculpting features to your software at one point that are maybe close to ZBrush, I can see a lot of people, especially students and indie developers, being like, that's it. That's all what I need.
That's something I definitely won't do for a long time.
Yeah.
Because
it's hard,
sculpting
right?
is a huge thing. And it's huge in the sense of like the architecture of your code has to be very different for many of those features. And so sculpting is something I particularly am avoiding intentionally because when you're one person and you're a tool developer, you need to be very careful about which doors you're opening. Because if I add, I'm adding a simple little like tablet brush support for sculpting like in a very simple way, then I'm going to get like 50 support ticket requests for like, can you just add this thing to make the sculpting thing better? And then it's going to snowball into me making ZBrush, And so I'm very intentionally leaving certain things out for 1.0 to make sure that I actually finish the project.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise I'm gonna get stuck doing the things forever.
Yeah.
So sculpting, so that's sort of why I'm targeting it towards indies, because usually sculpting is more of a like high poly workflow that you do in like AAA studios.
Yeah.
Just to like lower expectations a little.
Oh, I wasn't going there, but like I was saying there's a market, I guess, to like students who want to sculpt. I really feel bad for students that want to sculpt.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially those who are self-learners. Anyway, we need to close this. Is there anything you would like to still promote or say to the viewers?
Is it called, I forget if it's called Cozy Blanket. I don't think it is, but it's the same people who made, I think it's the same people who might have worked on a sculpting tool on the iPad, which is sort of the Procreate sculpting, I guess.
Nomad something?
Maybe Nomad Sculpt, yeah.
Wait, let's see.
I don't know if that's good, but I'm just aware that there is like a mobile or iPad style thing.
Yeah, there is. It's called Nomad Sculpt, yeah.
Okay, I don't know if it's good. I just know it exists.
It's not as
if people
strong,
wanted
yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I can see now where you're coming from, because you will probably release on tablets, right?
No,
okay.
It's going to be desktop only.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a cheap alternative, I guess. Nomad Sculpt. It's just limited with the polygons, because it's an iPad thing. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
great.
I think like high poly workflows is stuff that I'm not gonna like focus on for the first one. It's going to be mostly mid poly. That's why I call it mid poly, because it's low to mid poly. High poly, it's like maybe it's going to work, maybe it's not going to work. I'm not going to design it for it, so we'll see.
No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think there's a huge potential, especially for the UV features that you're talking about. I cannot wait until I get my hands on it. Just for a disclaimer for people who are wondering about Nomad Sculpt, there is actually a beta for Windows. So that's that.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. That's the last thing you wanted to promote? Is there something you wanted to add to the viewers? Anything? Any message? Sleep?
Yes. Make sure you get sleep. Ideally, the ideal is like 8 hours. 7 hours is fine. People kind of fluctuate between 7 to 9 as their like gold standard. You absolutely need more sleep than 4 hours. If you get less sleep than 4 hours, you are actively damaging your brain. So that's like even worse. But ideally, you should be aiming at like 7 to 9 hours every night.
So,
and it does not matter when you go to bed. That does not matter. The only thing that matters is to get those hours in. Even if you have to nap during the day, that's better than not napping during the day.
Yeah.
I think that would be my tip there. My other tip would be, if you have cats, make sure that you have them microchipped, and make sure that the microchip is registered in your database, because that is the #1 way that cats find their way back home if they ever get lost. Because they get taken to a vet, they get taken to a shelter. The first thing they're going to check is their microchip. And if your name is not there, you might not even be aware that your cat has been found, and you might never find out that they've been found because they don't know how to reach you. So that's something that's been a lot on my mind, because I've been doing a lot of volunteer work for finding other people's cats. So please make sure that they are microchipped, especially if they're outdoor cats. Doesn't matter as much if they're indoor cats, but they sometimes get out through windows and whatnot. So I think those are my most important tips for now.
Get your cats microchipped, people. All right.
Yep.
Freya, we're just going to say bye to people, and I'll stay with you for like 10 minutes afterwards. But hey, people, as always, check the Generalist podcast. Stay tuned for more. And go to Freya's socials. I will leave them in the description below. And everything we discussed that is important, we'll leave in the description below. Read descriptions, damn it. And yeah, all right. Have a great rest of your day, evening, whatever. Salam.